My name is Phil Westover. I live in the Springfield area. This is starting my third year of living in Springfield, moving down here, getting close to family. Used to live in Newberg, Oregon, or near Newberg, Oregon, and for many years. But we really like it down here. It's a great place to live. And we joined St. Alice Parish, and we love it. We absolutely love the parish and the people there and everything. It's a great place.
Now, when you were up in Newberg, you got in touch with the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd the first time, is that right?
Yes, St. Peter Parish in Newberg was starting up the catechesis program. They didn't have anything, and they had a need for a lot of different things, small things that I made for them, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. When I learned what the program was about, it really registered with me, and so I was all for them. In fact, I told them that if they needed more, just let me know, and I'll still make things for them if they needed.
Would you tell me a story about how you came in contact with them, or what you noticed about?
Yeah, well, I learned about the catechesis program, that it was starting up. I visited the atrium that they had started at the time, and they invited me to go to another atrium in Gresham, Oregon, which had been established for a while. I saw examples of the things that had been made for that atrium, and that was a real help for me. They had the parish in Newberg had a book of all sorts of projects and things that they needed to accomplish. Very intriguing. But when I heard what the catechesis program was all about, no question that it would be something I could get into. I love little kids, for one thing, but the kind of the interest that little kids have in things and how they engage in things, and the idea that we would be making things that would help them connect with what we're all about, connect with God and understand the whys of things that go on even during a Mass. It was very intriguing. I really thought it was a great deal to get involved with.
You were telling me before about how usually when we walk into church, parents are telling you to be quiet, shut up, and so forth.
Yeah.
And you saw that there was a different approach.
Yeah, the instructor told me that usually parents will, tell their kids, quiet, be respectful. And I heard that the catechesis program was all about explaining why and what it was all about, to not only be quiet, but why you genuflect and why things happen in a very simple sense. And I thought that was fantastic. And so I got into building a tabernacle for them, and it had to be lockable. There's a reason for that. And so it wasn't just a tabernacle with a lock, it was a tabernacle that had a lock because. And I thought that was great. All those things were like that.
Did you ever go and observe when the children were there?
Yes, and I saw, first of all, instructors that were really engaged, very, very friendly environment. I saw a lot of mayhem too when they were doing small games and things that they were playing with. But it seemed like it had there was a pattern of program there. It wasn't, I say it was chaos, but it really wasn't chaos. It was by design. What they were doing was by design, and they weren't overly tough with the kids, but kids had an opportunity to experiment and to do things, and it was just really cool. I really enjoyed that.
You have your own children.
Yes.
And grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
And what have you seen in educating your children and grandchildren in the faith? Maybe have you seen a difference or maybe some sort of advantage in the catechesis? What have you seen?
There's a definite advantage. My kids both went to parochial grade schools, and they went through catechism in those schools, it was in a school setting. And I think an atrium presents a whole totally different feel to a kid, and especially the real young ones. Of course, in a sense, it might prepare young ones better for school, which, it's not a classroom. It's definitely an organized location, but I think it's warmer, closer, more high touch, so to speak, than a school would be. And I would have liked it if my kids would have been able to go through catechesis program first.
What are you working on back here?
This is a table for, I'm pretty sure it's for dining. And I've described to people that I think what's going to happen is that children are going to understand the need for eating together and having some order and doing that. It kind of gives a family feel. I think that's what's going to happen. And I would bet you they'll learn about saying grace when they sit at the table. And I'm sure they'll probably use the table for other things too. But it's just one more prop that is produced for that age group. And it about blew me away when I heard I needed to have a chair no higher, a seat height no higher than 8 inches off the ground. And so I found these chairs. It was much less expensive to buy them than it was to build them, but the table, it wasn't real impressive, the tables that were available. So, I took off in making this table and kind of reverse engineered it against the chairs, made sure a table that would be the right height for the chairs that were being used. And
would you show us the chair?
Yeah. That's an incredible little guy chair, little girl chair. And I am going to attempt to put the what I use as a catechesis logo on the chair so that they have something special for them, probably on the sides. But in the process of designing a chair, I'm not a master woodworker. I'm experienced, but not a master woodworker. And I thought I would find photos of chairs to show to the catechesis folks there at St. Alice Church. By the way, my 3 o'clock alarm went off. So 3 o'clock every day. 3 o'clock's a special time every day. Father Mark will tell you about that. Anyway, I thought I would show photos to the folks at St. Alice. And then I thought, it would be less expensive to buy them and donate them than it would be to build them. And they're really solid. So the table, though, it'll probably be overbuilt, but it will match the solidness of the chair, I think.
That's great. Why don't you tell us about the 3 o'clock alarm?
Oh.
What is it that's going off?
Well, it's of course it's the time of divine mercy every day, and it just is a reminder. It's a way to incorporate prayer into my life all during the day, and that's just what it's for.
Now that's part of the catechesis too, in the sense that understanding what a ritual is about, understanding the meaning of it, as you brought out before, means that you can worship in a reasonable way, as a complete, full human being.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit, what you've seen
in
these children?
Well, one of the things that I made for the prior parish was a kneeler, a downsized kneeler. I took the kneelers that they had for adults in the sanctuary and just brought the dimensions down on it. And they use them all the time. And to me, what I've learned, and I'm 72 years old and I'm still learning about my faith. And in fact, I think since I've retired, I've been able to put more thought into it than I ever have before when I was caught up with working and the daily routine of things. That is really a gift to retirement, to be able to have time to think about that. And then coupled up with Father Mark at St. Alice Church and learning about prayerfulness, and that it's not just prayers in the morning or prayers in the evening. It can be all day long. And when I go into an atrium and I see that that's kind of a regular part of what goes on in an atrium, what better time to teach that than at a super young age and get them understanding of why and what that's all about.
There's a beautiful thing that the foundress of the Catechesis program said, is that because a lot of times the people's objection is that children can't understand theology until they're at the age of reason. Mm-hmm. And her objection, or her response was, the highest things are accessible to the smallest. And so even when you're 1 year old, you can perceive love.
Yeah.
You know, I really like that.
That's right. And as you were saying that, when Father Mark goes and locks that tabernacle, it's he doesn't make a super big deal out of it, but it's part of the whole process of the Mass. To have a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old know why he's locking that or why he unlocks it to gain access to it, that is really cool. I never thought about that as a kid. Never understood it. Thought it was just one more lock, a security thing. There's so much more to it than that. So I think I mentioned that I made a tabernacle and included a lock on that. And I had a whole different perspective of putting a lock on a tabernacle myself as a woodworker too. It was pretty cool.
Would you tell us what is the reason?
Well, first of all, above everything else, it's to protect the body and blood of Jesus in that place, and to in a sense, it's to symbolize the protection as well. I'm sure there's more to it than that, but that's kind of how it strikes me, is that there's a reason why, and I think on our tabernacle at St. Alice and others, it's not just a regular key. It looks special too, because it is. And so that's what I think it is. It's a symbol of protection. And as a practical measure, especially in the world today, there is more of an obligation than ever to protect that Eucharist, and so that it's not misused or that type of thing.
Absolutely. Would you talk a bit about the community aspect? You've just moved here to a new place. You're coming to be closer to your family. But one of the things that I think is interesting about education in general, and in this case we're talking about the catechesis, where you have parents who are parents and grandparents and community members in general, trying to build a place where their children can grow up. Mm-hmm. And maybe you could talk a bit about how you see yourself contributing to the broader community, how you've seen that community acting so far, maybe up in Newburgh, where each one brings their talent and contributes it.
Yeah. St. Alice is a great example of what you're speaking of, especially with its homeschool program, which has really taken off. And I would say we probably administer those programs separately. The homeschool program, we manage that, and catechesis, we manage that. But they're really part of the bigger picture. And parents have seen the need for homeschooling and the type of program that St. Alice offers, I think they easily can see the same need for kids that are even younger yet, that may not be in a public school or a formal school yet at their age, but they start at a younger age with catechesis, and they learn that that sense of community and how they're all in it together, and how they I think catechesis even talks or practices the idea of being responsible for cleaning up after yourself. And I know I've built some things for the other parish, and probably will here, that helps them organize their stuff. And it just gives it. Kids don't do that on their own; they do it as a group, and that's just great training, great education for them. So it is and I could extend it even further. It's the catechesis program, along with homeschooling, is a part of the overall parish community. They aren't really separate things. They're managed separately, but they're all part of this one package, the way I see it anyway. And I'm betting Father looks at it that way too.
Yeah. You brought up some interesting things there about order. You have the most orderly workshop I think I've ever seen. Why is order important?
Well, first of all, I have more fun in doing what I do because I know where stuff is at. It was very frustrating when I first put this shop in, because I knew all the things that I had access to, I just didn't know where I put it. And over time, I've been able to reorganize, and people say that I'm the only person they know that wears out a label maker. But when I get creative and like to do something different off the wall, I know I've got something that'll help me with that, but I have to find it. And it becomes easier and easier the more organized I get. And it does look a little bit like hoarding. It's very hard to throw things away. But every once in a while I go through and clean things up and get rid of it, because of course I could store myself right out of the house if I am not careful. But I do believe having tools, well, I think I mentioned when we talked off on the side my experience with dentistry. And in my prior life, I worked with dentists in designing equipment and stuff. And I learned about how dentists operate. And they have so many tools and so much stuff, and they're working with it all day long. They have to have some level of organization. And the products that I was involved with the company that I worked for, it was all about helping them organize. So I've just carried that into my retirement.
What do you think it gives to the children to have an organized space?
I mentioned when I went in and saw chaos, with the kids, I think there's actually less chaos if they know there's a place for things. Everything has a place, and it develops some consistency for them. And I think that puts them at ease a little bit. I just think it would put a kid at ease if they have a little bit more organization in their life. So definitely that would help it.
Yeah, I think that's what I see too, is that there's also a sense of quiet joy, that if you don't have to worry about all the things being out of order, then you can just focus on the work that you're doing.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
There's joy in that.
Absolutely. So in here, every once in a while I'll do something that I call a reset. Now in dentistry, they don't always use that term, but I know some offices talk about resetting the treatment room. And that's where everything gets cleaned up, put away, taken care of. Anything that's damaged gets separated. And so I apply that same thing here. And I'll do a reset every once in a while. And I can get rid of stuff I don't need and find out stuff that I need to acquire that I'm running low on, and so on. That's my reset. And I'll do that maybe a couple of times a month.